All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the program. This episode is with my friend Shane Huff. I've known Shane for about a year now. We met through motocross through our mutual friend John Moeller. And, Shane he's a really cool guy. He's pretty active on social media, and that's kind of how we've been able to keep in contact and see what's going on with each other. And he's always been supportive of the podcast, and really appreciative of that. So I was super excited to have him on and have him be excited to be on. So Shane is a moto guy, but he's really a runner. You know, he's really a long distance runner and a marathon runner, and he's gone through some struggles in his life. And we were he was really kind enough to be really open and thorough about what he's gone through in his life and some of his struggles. And we just kind of start from the beginning and work our way up to now and where he's at with his life now. And he's had some setbacks in moto and in marathon running, and he has never given up. And that's something that has stood out to me, and again, it is a big reason why I was happy to have him on the podcast. So I really hope that you enjoy this as much as we had fun recording it. And we mentioned in the podcast, but Shane has a marathon coming up this weekend, and I'm sure he'd love all of your support out in the Irving area. If you're around, look him up. Follow him on the internet. He's a really cool guy, and I really can't express enough appreciation for him. So I really hope that you enjoy his story and hearing about his life. And I'm just going to let it roll from there. So without further ado, Shane Huff. We'll just get into it. So,
sounds good.
Shane Huff, thanks for coming on the program.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
For
looking
sure.
forward to it. I was hoping maybe I'd get that message one day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I kind of saw your reaction to some initial stuff that I'd put out, and
very good.
I kind of kept you in my pocket.
Yeah.
Because I was waiting on something like this. I saw that it was marathon week for you.
Yes,
You're running
sir.
a marathon this weekend. And so I just kind of wanted to time it right. And
Gotcha. It was good timing.
Yeah, for sure. So
it's a down week too, being marathon week.
Yeah, well,
so the mileage is a little lower.
That's exactly where my head was at. I figured you were going to have a little bit more downtime.
Yep.
So, we're just going to get into it. From Shreveport?
All my life.
Okay.
Born and raised, and other than venturing off for a few months at a time, it's been here my whole life.
And did you ever go to college?
No college, just high school. I didn't really do well in school.
Yeah.
Wasn't the best acting
For
student.
sure. Well, it's definitely not for everybody. And I know you went off and worked in some windmills early on in life. Was that the first thing that you did, or did you dabble in some other things?
No, that was actually way down the road.
Okay.
Of course, I started in the automotive field before I was even done with high school, changing tires and tune-ups and stuff. And the wind turbines come into play later on down the road. But
Okay.
That was a very good time.
So I guess what did you do before that? Just more automotive stuff?
It was all automotive, whether it was tune-ups and things like that. And I got into car audio when I was 21, and I did that for a long time. I still do it on the side.
Yeah, for sure. Is that something that you had some prior experience in, or is that just something you just picked up one day and started messing with it?
Actually, like all of us, you're in high school. You want stuff to be louder and be better than the next guy pulling up at the high school parking lot.
No doubt.
When funds are limited, you just learn how to do things yourself. And I think that's kind of where it started, maybe 15, 16 years old. And actually, the way I got into doing it for a job is I was on my first marriage, and we had just separated, and I'd had a really good job at a steel mill for a few years. I thought I silenced that. But we separated, and I thought, I do not want a job like this. I want to change things up a bit. And I made one phone call and got hired on at Pro Trim, a local company that does car automotive and interiors and things like that.
So you knew somebody.
Yeah, well, I
You had
called.
a connection, I guess.
Yeah, I made a phone call. Somebody had led me their way, and I called them. And they're like, "Well, hey, if you can be up here by this time, we'll see what you can do." And I went, and they hired me that day. So I didn't get much of a break from the steel mill before I got something else, but it was a much more enjoyable job.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess at that point you had put in car stereos and stuff for yourself and friends, that kind of deal.
Myself and buddies.
Yeah.
That was it.
So I guess I know you've probably had some cool personal projects that you did with some car audio
Very,
stuff.
very cool.
Can you talk about, maybe your biggest, baddest project, something like that?
If I had to pick one, oh man, now it's gonna be tough. Now that they're coming back to me. Me and my buddy John Crofton that did own ACS Pro Trim back then. We built a car for MTV Spring Break down in South Padre. Oh man, I'd have to say, and I may be way wrong here, 2003, 2002.
Okay.
We built a car and it ended up placing second for Best of Show. So I thought that was really cool, to go down there for spring break and, build a car that actually placed in
Right.
because there was so many cars. It's, it's partying, it's automotive related, it's, everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
So about what year was that, do you think?
I'm thinking it was 02.
02.
02.
So early 2000s.
Yeah, 'cause I graduated in 95, so if I was 21, we probably built that when I was 22 or 23,
Yeah.
so right around in there.
So you were still having a good time, or able to have a good time
Oh,
at
I
that
was,
point?
yeah, definitely. I was single or divorced, so yeah, South Padre.
Fair enough. So how long did you do that car audio stuff for?
I was with them for right at 5 years, and then I went to another company in town and was with them for about 6 years, somewhere right around in there. I got out of it for a little while. It's a profession that it's hard to do every day here. People don't spend the money on their vehicles like the East or West Coast does. We're kind of stuck in the middle, and to make a good living out of it, it can be tough.
No doubt. I can imagine. Louisiana's not the most booming economy.
Yeah,
so.
it's kind of like trying to go somewhere and ride your dirt bike. It's just you're kind of limited on what people are going to do and how many options there are.
Yeah, that's fair. So I guess when did you get into the windmill stuff?
It was shortly after, actually. I was working somewhere else, and it wasn't really going good. I wasn't happy with it. And a buddy of mine called me, and he said, "Hey," he said, "just a heads up." He said, "We're looking for people up here in Wyoming." And here I've never left home at this point, ever. And I was like, man, I'm going to have to think about that. And a few days went by. I called the owner, and he said, "Hey," he said, "I'm going to send you some money. We want to go ahead and get you up here." So another job that was a phone call, and the next thing I know, I've got my car piled up with what little bit of clothes I had, a couple of Monster Energy drinks, and on the road to Wyoming I was going.
I imagine someone sending you money telling you come to work for me is kind of hard to turn down.
It was. It's a good living doing that.
Yeah, I've actually a surprising amount of guys that I grew up with that are in the windmill game and seem to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And have had a lot of success doing it.
Adrenaline. It's it comes with a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of height. A lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And, every hour, you're there. There's lots of issues that come up in a wind farm.
For sure. I'm sure the weather has a lot to do with that.
A whole lot.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
So how long did you do that for?
It was just only a year.
Okay.
We finished a few contracts, and unfortunately it's like the oil rigs or any other type of construction job. They tell you we've got some more lined up, but they don't always come through. And then it did fall through about a year later. We finished everything up and come back home and played around with the car audio again, and I believe they did call about 2 years later, but I was kind of at a happier place in my life at that point.
Yeah.
Not near the money, but I was happy to be home.
Yeah.
You know.
Quality of life.
Quality of life was much
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. I first put that phrase into my vocabulary when one of my good friends worked at a bar, and he worked there for a couple years, and finally, we had become friends, and then he worked at this bar, and he distanced himself from me and everyone else, for that matter, other than the people that worked at the bar. And he finally popped up one day, and he was like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna be around some more often. I'm pretty much tired of this whole staying up till 3 or 4 in the morning every day."
Yeah.
So
I've been there, done that. I've been a bar back and a couple other things here and there through life. Yeah. So I totally understand, where he's at on that one.
For sure. So, when did running come into your life as a competitive thing?
That is my, next to family and things like that. I would probably say that's probably my biggest accomplishment in life, was that whole story and the way it happened. There again, quality of life was good, but it was kind of going nowhere. There was just never no light at the end. Every day is just like the same routine. And I'd smoked for 21 years, about 2 packs a day. I mean, when I was a kid, you could just go to the store and buy them. There wasn't electronics and all the check, the license checks and everything.
Yeah.
But
scanning the IDs and all that stuff.
So I started that at a young age and smoked for 21 years. And September 10th, 2010, I woke up and I had a couple of cigarettes left and didn't have any intentions on quitting. And I finished those few cigarettes and never bought another pack and never picked up another one after 21 years. Never took one off somebody else's hand or anything. And that led into the running, which about 3 months went by. And I was just having a bad day. I needed to get a ride to work and couldn't find one, so I walked to work. And that walk to work at 9 o'clock at night, I worked third shift, so that 9 o'clock walk started the running. Having a bad day started the running.
Yeah, so I guess at that point, you like you say, you didn't necessarily consciously quit. It just kind of happened, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
I definitely never would have thought that was going to be the story
that's
of how it started.
Happened.
So at that point, like, you just started running and just found a goal or something, found a race?
I had another buddy. I had just gotten involved with social media. I think actually that was my first year on Facebook, was that year. And another friend that just happened to be kind of running, not fitness at all, seen my post about the stopping smoking and the walking to work and things. And he reached out to me, and next thing I know, we're meeting up every day, to go do a few miles. And when I say a few miles, it took a long time back then. You would walk for half a mile and run 100 meters, and that was an accomplishment. So it started from there.
Huh, that's interesting. I guess when did you start deciding that you were going to start competing and whatnot?
That's his fault. He talked me into signing up for a 5K, and that was the Super Loop 5K here in Shreveport. It was my very first one, and 5K is 3.1 miles. I'd never ran 3 miles nonstop. That was my very first time to do it, was during that race. And when I got done, I guess that was the adrenaline, the endorphins you always hear about with a runner's high. I knew when I finished, it was probably fixing to get intense and progress. That was
that
was the
itch.
first time I'd ever ran 3 miles nonstop was during a race.
That's awesome. Obviously, you didn't necessarily win that race.
No, I didn't win. And my results, that picture pops up every year on a memory. But I think roughly, I think I was somewhere around 76th overall, and maybe like 15th age group out of just a couple of hundred people. So barely 50% there.
Yeah. So, I mean, at that point, like you say, it kind of sparked something within you. And did you Did you change your diet and everything, or was it kind of a continuous deal where you gradually got into that?
Actually, I did. That was first. And when I say I changed my diet, I probably just started leaving more of the junk out, as opposed to sitting down. People didn't even talk about meal prep then, and now that's all you see is meal prep. So I never did anything like that. It was never really no cutting out carbs or anything. I just stopped going through the drive-thrus as much. Sodas went out the way. I never touched another one. We do like have a Coke, a couple times a month with our dinner. It just makes dinner good sometimes. But for the most part, it's all water and just not as much of the bad stuff as we did,
So when did a marathon come into the picture?
Well, see, and that's the way my head works.
Yeah.
And some people, say it's not a good thing, but, I don't mind it. But my brain works only in competition mode. So I did the first 5K, and I probably did 2 or 3 more. And somebody turned me on to a guy in town that does training one-on-one. Wasn't, he's really affordable. So I reached out to him, and he said, well, what do you got in mind? I said, kind of everybody does 5Ks every weekend. He said, I'd like to just go ahead and go to the marathon. So that race was in May, and I did my first marathon December 3rd. So I pretty much immediately went into marathon training before I'd even been running 4 months, I guess.
Wow,
yeah.
That's unheard of.
It is. It is.
So, what was the first marathon?
Rock and Roll, New Orleans. It'll always hold a special place. Just you do your first one, and emotions come over a person for different reasons. Happiness, sadness, anything, and it was a lot of emotion with that one. And I had the privilege of going back 2015 and pacing it. So they put me up for the weekend, and I actually got to lead a pace group and do that race again. That was
wow.
It feels really good to give back in that way.
So can you describe what you're talking about being a pacer a little bit more?
When you sign up for your further distances, like the half marathon and marathon, 5K doesn't need it. It's more intense, and it's pretty much as all out as you can go for 3 miles. The half marathons and marathons, they'll have pace groups, and they'll range anywhere from an hour 45. They've got them as far out as 5 hours. They asked me to come do the 325 pace group, so I got to come, and that was a lot of fun. I had actual team members from Team Chocolate Milk in my pace group. It carries a lot of responsibility, and I think that's one reason I enjoy it so much. Is it's a great way to give back, and a lot of people are depending on you. I mean, you can't bobble for 26 miles because this person here's been training for 5 months, and if I don't do my job to the T, I've just messed up this guy's 5 months of training.
So you run the marathon.
I run it at a controlled effort.
Right, and that's obviously, I guess, they were comfortable enough with you being comfortable enough to stay at that pace.
325 for me at the time, I've ran 10 marathons at a sub 3 at that point. So a 325 is a weekend.
Yeah.
Not easy, but it's what my training runs were at. So I knew that I had that.
So why does someone who can run a hour and 45-minute marathon decide?
That's the half.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
yeah.
Okay, I was about to say, because why would someone become a pacer at that point? Like, why would they not just compete?
Yeah. No, that would be the half.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So I mean, you described it already. The 5K is a much more intense thing, and then the marathon it's a marathon. It's a slow and steady kind of deal. I saw like 3 or 4 years ago you won both in the same weekend at some event.
The Tyler Rose Marathon, that'll always be real special to me too. I really hate it ended after 7 years, but we went down there.
Where is that?
Tyler, Texas.
Okay.
Actually, Tyler, Texas. We went down there in 2012 to run it, and had no intentions of winning. It was just another training run to get ready for something else. I was getting ready for Boston actually, my first Boston, because I'd already qualified. We went, and at that point, the fastest I had run was a 3:09. I went to go run a 3:05 and ended up running a 2:58 and winning it. So
the whole
that
thing.
was awesome to run a sub 3.
Yeah.
It moved me up in the field for the 2013 Boston. And then from there, I went back every year and compete. I trained specifically for it and won it the next 2 years in a row. But the second year, I believe I did it, I won the 5K the day before and then backed it up with a marathon win the next day. Most people, when you're in your taper for a marathon, they don't run the day before a 26-mile race.
Yeah.
I went and won the 5K the day before and then followed it up with winning the marathon the next day.
So let's talk about like the mentality that goes on to each one of those races, because just your appearance, you got gauges and tattoos, like you look like a pretty intense dude. But so like, are you getting hyped for that? Are you like listening to Rob Zombie and stuff before that happens, or are you
actually
cool and trying to keep your head on you?
I like to think I stay cool and collected. Like this week being marathon week, my my intentions are, of course, a lot different than they were when I was really trained up to my peak potential. But I like to spend the weeks prior running the race over and over in my head and just kind of staying positive and ruling out. I'm pretty much trying to control any negativity that can come my way for the last few days before the race.
So to combat that, I mean, do you do like any meditation or yoga or anything like that?
No, really. I mean, we're doing it right now.
Yeah.
You know, relaxing, you know, turning on something good on the TV and just kicking back. And like I said, just visualizing. In the next 3 days, I'm going to run that marathon this weekend 200 times in my head, just with every possible scenario that could come up.
For sure. That is something that I was taught at a younger age in sports is the whole visualization side of things. And I'm sure that plays into motocross as well.
Definitely.
So let's jump into that. When did you get into motocross? Is that a young age thing, or?
I'd had a few bikes here and there as a kid, maybe one during my teenage years. It was on and off, never more than a couple of months at a time. 2015, I'd crossed the line at the Boston Marathon, and we got home. I was already fighting some foot issues. Went to the doctor, and it turned out it was severe plantar fasciitis in both feet. So we tried injections and every other thing we could, and it just would not go away. There was time off from running. There was no running at all, no exercising, no nothing. So that competitiveness, you know, my head just doesn't do that very well. So we actually went and we watched Blake Wharton perform at I can't remember the name of it. It was in Monroe, maybe, but he did a concert.
Okay.
And I knew coming home, I was like, I got to get a dirt bike. And I'm like, how can I tell my wife that I'd like to ride a motorcycle?
Yeah.
My wife comes from a family of doctors and nurses and things like that. So you stay away from two wheels.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I needed something to combat that missing that competitiveness. I needed it, and I could find myself searching for it every single day.
Okay. I want to back to running. So I have two questions, I guess. Marathons, you mentioned that you won the Tyler Rose, and that bumped you up in the Boston standings. Right. So you do have to qualify for the Boston Marathon.
You have to qualify for the Boston Marathon. It's gender and age groups.
Okay. Is that something like any marathon will qualify you for the Boston?
There's when you sign up for a marathon, they usually post real big somewhere on the site that it's a Boston qualifying route. That means somebody from the running association has come, traced the course themselves, and verified that it's 26.2 and it's certified to be Boston.
Okay. So is there other big races like Boston that you can qualify for?
There is, but I want to say they're more charity related. New York, yeah, we'd love to go do New York. We'd love to go do Chicago. Their qualifying standards are even a little faster than Boston because they're meant to be charity races, and that's great. But it's it takes a good bit of charity raising to go do those events.
Fair enough. So obviously Boston has a big name. What is the allure of Boston? Where does all of that come from?
Well, for me, and you'd understand this, and the moto guys out there, it's the Lorettas of running. You can't just go do it.
Okay.
You have to go and do a course. You have to do it really well for your age, for your gender, and it only takes 25,000 people from around the world every year.
That makes sense. Yeah, for sure.
So.
So you mentioned plantar fasciitis, or your plantar problem, and
that's a minor problem now.
Well, and that is something that I've seen you post recently. Is you're talking about your zero shoes,
zero drop.
Yeah, zero drop. So does that help? And can you explain what the drop is?
Your average shoe, if you just go to the store and you pick out your favorite shoe, are probably, and this varies so much, but I would say 10 to 13 degrees. And what that is it just gives your heel a little bit so you're not landing so flat-footed.
Okay.
We're not designed to land flat-footed, not heel strike. So when you have that zero drop, it's pulling your heel closer to you and allowing you to land more flat-footed.
Okay.
It's supposed to keep all the spring in your knees versus the harshness of heel striking and then sending a sharp,
I'm following you
hit
there.
through your whole body. And it's supposed to be more effortless. So I've ran in 3mm drop shoes for several years, which is a minimal shoe, which doesn't have very much cushioning. It's literally just enough material to cover your foot.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed them. But the Ultras that I wear are zero drop. They're designed to let your toes spread out, feel comfortable, but they are minimal. You could just put on a pair of socks and have the same cushion.
So I guess like the Vibram 5-finger shoes have that's where I first heard of it.
Right.
the minimalistic shoe.
Yep.
But that is similar to what you're talking about.
Right on the same line.
That's interesting.
I've just switched to them about 2 weeks ago. It's something I don't recommend you do a few weeks away from your marathon.
Yeah.
It takes most people 3 to 5 weeks to transition to a minimal shoe and then a minimal with zero drop. I convert to that kind of stuff pretty well, and I was they're supposed to be for plantar fasciitis with the zero drop and the extra space in the toes and things. So I wanted to give them a shot, and right now I'm really loving them.
That's interesting.
2 pair in 2 weeks. So
okay.
yeah, and I usually don't buy running shoes often, but
fair enough.
I do. But
that is definitely, you mentioned like you got to take time to transition into it. That is definitely something that I've heard about. Those Vibram 5-finger shoes, everybody was buying them and then they were getting hurt because they're just going straight from their tennis shoes to
exactly
those things.
Right.
And
usually they like you to start with short stuff. So, and when I say short, less than 2 miles, and sometimes they don't even want you to run. It's just time. They're like, hey, go put these shoes on and just go do your normal activities for the day and let us know what you think tomorrow. And sometimes just not even running and switching to a minimal shoe, you'll get up and you'll have tight calves and things because things are stretching and doing things a little different.
all right, so we'll jump back into moto. So you decided to get into moto at what age?
Well, like let's see, I'll be 42 in a few weeks, so I'm thinking 38.
Okay.
38, yeah.
And you just kind of got on a bike and started riding around tracks?
You said earlier how well the running probably played a part into the moto, and it really did. The training taught me to be really intense and really stay dedicated. So we went and got the bike. We lived in a condo. Didn't even get to ride the bike, and we signed up for a race. So we drive to Badlands. All I've done is crank the bike, and I did switch it to my numbers because I didn't want to ride a bike without my numbers on it.
There you
go. But that was it. The first time I rode the bike was at Badlands during practice.
Wow.
And ended up going 2-1 for the night and got the overall in the beginner class. But that I was like, oh, I'm hooked now.
Yeah.
That fed that competitiveness right there.
Yeah, you got that number one place.
Yeah, that started a whole shot and a win. That'll wrap it up every time.
So I guess it just progressed from there, and I know you got into the arena cross circuit at some point.
I did, but leading up to that, I don't want to leave anybody out.
For sure, go right ahead.
I did a lot of stuff on my own, but I knew some people that raced motocross, and lo and behold, I ended up running into John Moeller. And he's somebody that in the first, 16, 18 months of me being on a bike was the one, I don't care if you don't want to ride, you have to ride.
Yeah.
Do this, don't do that. And that contributed to a lot. And we kept trying for Loretta's. Of course, he's going every year, and I'm like 5 spots out. I'm 3 spots out. I'm 2 spots out. So I'm getting better, but then I wanted to switch it up just for several reasons. But we wanted to go chase the arena cross. I'd just done a few races here and there, and I loved the whole weekend of arena cross. The vibe, it's as close as an amateur like me can get to that. There's people up there actually watching us, and I'm not that good at this, but we chased the Amsoil Arena Cross and ended up winning the plus 35 and plus 40 for the whole region and qualified for Vegas last year.
And so went to Vegas, and
that anniversary's coming up.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess just tell us, kind of give us a rundown of what happened in Las Vegas.
Well, we go to Vegas, and we went and bought a new bike for Vegas. We just went all out.
Drove all the way out there.
Drove there, and I can't, my wife was so supportive of all that. She stayed home for all this. So me and my mechanic, we go to Vegas, and we go through practice, and it took us a while to get settled in the first practice. We come out second practice and set fast lap. So I'm feeling really, really, really good. We go to line up for our first heat. I think we finished somewhere 4th or 5th. Go to line up for our second heat, which we're still a ways away from the mains. And somebody gets a little squirrely. We collide midair going up through the first rhythm section. I sit up on the side of the track, and I'm noticing I'm having a hard time focusing. I didn't feel like I got knocked out or anything, but I noticed things don't appear the same.
Yeah.
Which is a sign, I knew something wasn't good.
Right.
And they come over, the track guys come over, and they're like, man, you got 2 choices. You're going to either have to walk off the track, or we got to cart you, and then we take you from there. And you're in our hands. I'm like, well, let me stand up. So I stand up, and I tell them, I'm like, I can't walk. I was like, but I don't feel it's that bad. Now, mind you, I guess that's all adrenaline. So they take me back to the room, and they cut my pants off, and they're like, yep, that'd be your fibia snapped in 2. I'm like, sweet, second time I've done this to the same leg. Yeah, so that's how Vegas went, was 1.5 heat races, and we were on our way home.
So at that point, did you just got in the truck and started heading home?
Well, they made me take an ambulance to the hospital. That took quite a while. The doctor, they were concerned, and I may get some of this wrong, compartment syndrome. Mm-hmm. The impact, it must have been, I don't think it was a landing on it brake. It was more like maybe another bike slammed into me. My shin was as big as round as my quad. So they were really worried about it swelling up and needing to be cut open.
Yeah.
And they really wanted us to fly home. My mechanic, he wasn't really up for flying home. And I didn't want to, it had all my stuff, and I didn't want to put that all on him.
Right.
So we ended up finishing up the conversation with the doctor that we would take it in segments, and if we seen any issues, we would stop and at least get it checked out. And 3 days later, riding in the back of my bus with a broke leg they couldn't cast it or do anything. So as bad as it was swollen, it was still letting up a little bit. So you'd hit bumps and you could feel the fibia clicking on itself. That was not a fun trip.
Yeah, I don't imagine so. That sounds pretty miserable.
Yeah. So we left there on a Monday, got here on a Wednesday, doctor's appointment Thursday, surgery on Friday. Exactly how that week went.
Wow. At least it was quick, I guess.
It was pretty quick. My wife's a nurse in recovery, so she made sure I was taken care of.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, I mean, like you said, that was less than a year ago.
It'll be a year ago, May 3rd.
So I looked like you did a lot of your own physical therapy and recovery. Did you have any help in that?
The way my insurance works is I had like 6 or 8 PT through the doctor, which was just kind of getting everything mobile again, stretching, and pretty much directing me on what I shouldn't be doing, because they knew, and my wife knew the surgeon that did the operation and everything. They know how I am, and I will push the issues on a lot of things. So
No doubt.
the first little bit of
here.
PT, the first little bit of PT was pretty much just making sure I didn't go do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And then I did. I'm built to where I want to take care of the situation. If it's bad, I need to make it better. So that led to in the old shop. We immediately got a spin bike, ordered workout stuff, and I would go out there on my crutches while my wife was at work and drink my muscle milk and lift weights upper body and spin lower body until I got the okay to start lifting weights.
Wow. And you were pretty public about that journey as well. I mean, I'm sure you were maybe kind of, I don't know, I don't want to judge you or just put words in your mouth, but that had to be a struggle, like the whole being on crutches thing, and you go from being able to go and do whatever you want, and you're racing your dirt bike all the time, and then you get put into that. I guess, can you talk about, I mean, did you just take it day by day, or you have a goal, you're striving for?
Yeah, I did take it day by day, but that's at the same time, I really like the pacing and the moto schools we do. I'm not great at it, but I love to help people. And I knew that whether they were 12 years old and raced motorcycles or ran and were on my social media, or if they were 54 years old and ran or did moto on my social media, seeing my journey every day, getting on a spin bike for 15 minutes, and then a week later being able to get on a spin bike for 30 minutes might help them go through the same thing. And it's funny, or it's not funny you ask, but just some people have different opinions. And I would get messages, do you have to go live when you're spinning and drinking your muscle milk? I'm like, well, for the guy that this is helping, if it's only one of them, it was worth some negative feedback, just to help somebody else out.
For sure. I've been messing around on social media saying I can't wait till I get my first hater.
Yeah.
And I actually had 2 dislikes on a video a couple weeks ago. So all good. It can be motivating for that, but it was cool for me to see that. Yeah. To see you putting yourself out there and saying, look, I'm not giving up. Like, this isn't just gonna shut me down. Like, and I guess that's really what has intrigued me to come in here and talk to you.
I appreciate it. I mean, like I said, there again, that conversation right there is what makes people do things like that. Yeah. We can all go look at your post, but let's be the ones that are posting and say it's social media. That, to me, that's what it's for. And you do get negative feedback about doing something too much, or did you have to do it this way? But I find it's usually from the ones that they're not active at all on social media.
For sure.
So
I'm with you there. It's those people that tend to be lurking in the shadows that'll pop out.
They never like or comment on anything, but when you do something they don't like, you get that message, and it's like somebody's message. It's like, oh, well, this ain't gonna be good. But it is what it is. I enjoy it all, the positive and the negative. And the negative, it helps me figure out maybe what to put, or how to post something a little bit different. And I'm not good at it, and have never said I was, but I don't mind if it's first thing in the morning and I'm jumping on the spin bike, or if it's later in the afternoon and we're working out and lifting weights. I feel that it's just about helping somebody else.
For sure. I think that is a trend that is it's a positive trend, but it's coming on now is preaching positivity and being kind and nice and real. And that's kind of the whole point of this podcast, is to just bring honest and serious, not necessarily serious, but honest conversation, and just be real and open and nice to each other. Yeah.
It's a different world we're in. We need more things like this. We need more positive influences and positive things like this.
For sure. I always think about questions before I come and interview somebody, one of the questions that I had was like, what drives you? But I think it is. I have a similar mindset in that you try something and you got addicted to it.
Yeah. For me, I'm the type of person that's built to where a lot goes into running, a lot goes into motocross, a lot goes in for you to travel around and go do these podcasts on people. It's not being fair to yourself if you don't see how good you can get at it. And I know everybody's not built like that. I'm just always try to let people know that's how I'm built. If I go out with a friend and we pick up a set of darts, I'm gonna just naturally see how good I shoot at the end of the night.
Yeah.
I can't help it.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you there. Awesome, man. Well, this has been super cool. I guess let me just we'll keep going here. You started marathon training again after you were able to like get on your feet again.
I got released to attempt to try to go over there. A lot of people don't know. I mean, I've shared it with closer friends, but a lot of people didn't know that as we were getting ready to wrap up my PT and getting released last year in October, there was a few conversations between me and the doctor that I may never run again. And it's because it was that serious of an injury. I'm not playing it up like that. It's just your body reacts different when you put hardware in it. And I've done the same injury before, and they went back and pulled the hardware out a year later. So that's why I was able to run good before. He recommended we leave it this time at my age and everything. He's like, let's leave it. But there was a few conversations. He said your body might not accept it. You might go strike the ground with that right foot, and it's going to immediately tell you no. But he released me to give it a shot in October. So we did just maybe a few miles a week for quite a bit. And then
you were like full on running at that?
No, the first run back was a walk run, nothing more than 8 minutes at a time. And that was the first run, I think, was actually only 4 minutes. And I walked for 10 and got back to a run for 6. Yeah. I mean, it took me right at over 30 minutes to do a 5K.
And was that because of discomfort in your leg, or was
no,
that
just recommended
cardio? Okay.
They didn't want me to go
to push it,
right? Because it was early enough that a stress fracture would have been very easy to pop back up.
All right.
So,
I know you've experimented with the CBD stuff, and did that feel like you do feel like that helped you?
Love it. Like I said, it's not that kind of thing like you just get up and look forward to it. But the more you research on it, and there again, that's another thing where times are changing as far as CBDs go and even what THC and things like that are used for.
For sure.
I mean, just being honest, growing up, it was to party. And now it's for focus. It's for recovery. It's for rebuilding, certain things in your body.
Yeah.
So I did the CBD. Of course, it's 0 THC. It's perfectly fine. Just do a few milliliters every morning. On rougher days, stress days, not necessarily like high workout days, but just when work was a little bit more stressful, I'll do a little more in the evenings, but it's just a little dropper. But I do feel the recovery time is a little quicker. I mean, and this isn't just my personal experience with everything I've had go on traumatically with my body over the last year. I feel everything's going really well. And I mean, that was something I implemented into the progress was that.
Yeah. And again, you were pretty open with that as well. I've experimented with it a little bit. I actually dislocated my shoulder last Tuesday, and one of my roommates had a bottle of CBD, and I crushed it.
Yeah.
I really do think that I'm not 100% by any means, but it is definitely helps inflammation
for sure.
and helps.
I'm glad you touched on that. That's actually a huge part is the inflammation for sure.
But you also mentioned like it does have a calming effect as well. Like you say, a high stress day, it's something to kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say mellow you out because it's not something that's it's not something that's conscious.
Yeah, it's more of a, and I guess everybody's different. There's been people that say they like it for that. Me personally, I just feel that the recovery's better. And I do it for the higher stress days based on what I've read, not really so much as how I feel.
Okay.
So that's just how I personally done it myself.
Yeah. Do you regularly use any other supplements, I guess?
I don't, and I kind of have a different outlook on that. And and I definitely don't want to step on anybody's toes, because I've got so many friends out there that have their own brand of things like that. Low-fat chocolate milk, and after any workout or every morning, and apple cider vinegar, two really good things that are good for recovery, muscle strength, bone strength, weight loss. The apple cider vinegar I take every morning, just a little shot of it. Like this week, also being marathon week, we're in detox mode. So I hate these 4 days here, because we'll bring it to an end Thursday night and introduce some more normal foods in our diet. But this week's just coconut water, fruits, and vegetables in a blended up shake. So I'm like, man, it'd be so good to have some, just a big old plate of something. But unfortunately, right now, breakfast, lunch, and our snacks are in a cup this week.
So you mentioned later on in the week you'll get to have some real food. Do you carb load? Is carb loading something that you do?
We will introduce. Right now, we're still doing rice in the evenings for our dinner, which has a good carb in it, but it's really small amounts. So really, the point of the reason I detox is just for the weight loss. I mean, it does clean you up a little bit, but in running, and I may be a little off on this, every pound is good for 2 or 3 seconds per mile, somewhere around in there. So if I can detox and button down on a few things and drop 5 pounds, that just helps me ensure that I can achieve the goal I'm going for. Now,
is that something that you will bring back into your body before the race through fluids and stuff like that?
Are you talking about during, or as when I go back to more normal
food? Pre-race, do you stack up?
What we'll do is, since we're detoxing this week, is we'll have something a little more normal Thursday night. We'll load up and we're leaving Friday morning. We'll have a more normal breakfast, because right now it's no dairy, no eggs, no anything. So we'll do eggs. An egg sounds so good right now. But Friday we'll do some good pizza, man. Pizza, pasta, some breadsticks, and just really load up. But also at the same time, you don't want to just order a whole one yourself.
Well, and see, that was the only experience that I've gotten out of it. I had a guy who, his name's Craig Robertson. I give Craig a shout out. He's been a lot of help to me. But he did triathlons.
Yeah.
And one day I was hanging out with him the day before he was going to do it. It was an Xterra. It was little in Lincoln Parish Park.
Those are more off-road tries, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Mountain bike versus road bike.
For sure, mountain bike and trail run and the swim. But he just ordered a whole Johnny's pizza and sat down and ate the whole thing. And I was
before or after?
Before.
Hey, some people can do. But
it was the day
before.
Burn
a lot with that swimming.
Yeah, it was the day before, and I was like, he sat down to this whole pizza, and I was like, "Hey man, can I have a slice of that?" He was like, "I can't give you any of it because
that's funny,
because I really need it."
We'll still watch it. I think the key meal for a marathon is going to be your breakfast. Of course, you've got to prep for the week, but and I have been struggling with that the last few months. I don't know if it's an age thing. I don't know if just body's changing, but I've had to change up the way I do my long runs, which will be essentially what I'm doing Saturday morning.
Yeah. So you mentioned Coca-Cola, and we're talking about running and the marathon and stuff. So I have a older brother, and he did, I think, 3 Ironmen before he was 30 years old.
That's pretty awesome.
He is retired for many years now.
Yeah.
But anybody that I know that was running a marathon, I always reach out to him and pick his brain. And the thing that always sticks out to me that he says is, if you're, in mile 20 and your body's screaming, "Give me potato chips and a Coca-Cola," eat potato chips and Coca-Cola.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you see some odd things on a race course. You spend so many weeks or months getting ready for it, and you'll run, and they've got cups of beer, they've got shots of stuff. Now they're probably for your tail end, but
Yeah.
I've been in the lead pack, and I've seen people reach over and grab stuff like that. And I'm just like, I'm hurting for them already. You
Yeah,
know,
for
when
sure.
I'm thinking we still got 6 more miles of this marathon to go.
I guess, can you talk about your like during race nutrition? Are you eating goos and energy
I
things?
prefer goo.
Yeah.
Actually, I got a buddy of mine, one of my training partner, Gabby Winterstrom. She's going to bring me some goos for this weekend, but that's my choice. Everybody, like, it's another one of them things like your anything else. There's a lot of brands, a lot of flavors and things. I prefer goo.
So goo, what we're talking about is it's like a jelly type thing.
Yeah,
it's full of sugar and
it's such
vitamins.
a small calorie count. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I've seen people with belts on with them literally wrapped all the way around their waist.
For sure.
I think if you spend as much time as we do thinning up and trying to go as fast as you can, I try to do it in a more strategic way. They're recommended every 45 minutes of working out.
Okay.
So I'll carry 4 with me, or up to 4, and I'll probably do one before mile 10 and you're talking about 110 calories, which is, you're burning 3,000 for a marathon.
Yeah.
I'll do somewhere around before mile 10. I'll do 2 between 10 and 20, and then I'll save one. It might not even come into play, but I feel mentally I like having one at mile 22 or 23 to get me through those last few miles.
So when you take that goo, I mean, you get a little jolt.
I don't.
No,
to be honest, I'm
just
really
keep
just
on
doing it for
rolling.
the calorie count,
Yeah.
just hoping it's giving me something back, you know, that my body can feed on to continue pushing as hard as I need to.
So 26 miles by yourself. What's going through your head? Anything? Breathing.
Breathing and focus, man. I mean, when I won my first Tyler Rose, which is the very first marathon I won, I didn't expect that. That was probably the most intense, because when you're mid-pack or even the top of the pack, you've got 4 or 5 guys that are always on your shoulder. Some speak, some don't. I got stuck by myself leading with the cop and the bicycle and everything at mile 15. For the first time I won a marathon, and it was intense, man. It was kind of, I got a little overwhelmed before I even got near, just a few more miles in. I think mile 17, I was like, oh my God, this was not the plan. I'm not supposed to be leading this. So what's going to happen at mile 20? Or somebody going to speed up and pass me? Is it going to be short-lived? And
yeah, I was about to say, so it sounds like it was more of a mental struggle than it was a physical struggle.
It was, but there again, I spend so much time. I'd already ran this race in my head. I just did not race it to win it.
You never won it
in my head. But I took the lead at mile 15 and ended up putting about 4 or 5 minutes on second place, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a good gap.
In the running world, that's a big gap.
It's a good gap.
So at that point, I mean, you ever look over your shoulder? Or you just keep on trucking?
I peeked back a few times, but unlike motocross, I'm always looking back.
Yeah.
I'm staring at the people in front of me. I like the support. I like seeing somebody clapping and things. And I probably didn't do it this race, but like when I pace a marathon or something, if I see a group of spectators on the side, I'm going to go ahead and start amping them up as my group's coming through, just because I know they're feeding off of it.
For sure.
It helps me get the next half mile or mile over with, and
The positive energy.
Positive energy.
Yeah.
Positive energy.
Cool.
So
I think we're going to wrap it up right there with a good positive energy ending.
For sure. I enjoyed it, brother.
Yeah, man, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you having me in your home and
in my shop.
Yeah, in your shop for sure. And y'all check Shane out. He's always in. He's got a whole lot going on, and he's always getting into something new. So
if you don't mind, if you got just a second, just like giving John Moore a shout out earlier. I mean, there's been so many people that's helped me out in the moto world. And in the running world. But first, my wife and my entire family, there's been things that they've contributed to the bus. There's been things they contributed to, getting to Boston over the years.
Yeah.
Shan Garcia with Berm Lords, love the dude. He's been somebody that's on my bike now and been a big part. Winterstrom Fitness, my training partner Gabby, just everybody in general. Be looking for some little small run classes. I think we're going to work something up for some guys, whether you're moto or if you're all running. We're looking at doing something in Texas over the next few months. just to help people out, just get everybody started on the right track and be better at what they do, whether it's running or anything. So keep a lookout for that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm glad that you feel the need to give back.
Yes.
And as much as you've gained from the sport, you feel like sharing it. And
It should.
That's
and
really
that's
awesome.
another thing. Anybody that sees this, feel free. Message, a Facebook question, anything. I love helping. And I know my moto results don't look good, but me and Moeller, and I've been a part of several moto schools. But
he's got a couple plates on the wall.
just a
over
few.
here.
But I love helping out, no matter what it is. Whether it's anything. I get messages all hours of the night for car audio, for running, for what track they should try to go to this weekend to see how their dirt bike does. So I love stuff like that. Never feel like you're bothering me with any questions.
Awesome. Well, Shane, thanks again. And y'all follow him along this weekend, Irving Marathon. It's going to be a blast. So I'll definitely be live, be doing some things leading up to it. We'll do some stuff at the expo. You can go track me on Run Fast USA.
Okay. I believe they have an app, and you can put in my last name and track and follow along. Come, cheer me on. Maybe I'll feel it through some special vibes.
There you go. All right. Awesome. Well, thanks again, and maybe we'll see you down the road.
I appreciate it, brother.
All right.